Hi guys, over the course of my YouTube channel the last few years, people have always asked me how do they check their ignition coil to determine if it's still good or not, and because of those questions I had posted videos in the past of me checking ignition coils, or what I should say is activating ignition coils manually with jumper wires. For people who do not get spark out of an ignition coil when turning the key to crank, or they basically have a no start issue and they just quickly want to eliminate the coil as being the cause, meaning that if the coil produces a spark when it's manually triggered, it should not be a coil issue. Makes sense. However, people in the past have told me that that may not be the best way to test the coil, simply because using just jumper wires can actually burn out a coil due to the inrush current or high inrush current going through those transistors which are used to activate the coil. I have since removed those videos. I'm pretty sure I removed them at minimum. What I did was set them to private, and I did make a new video which is attached to the end of this video, showing a better way to trigger the coils. But again, I'm no electrician. Do not do this if you do not feel comfortable doing this. In the video I refer to a wiring diagram. You have to do the same thing. Find your vehicle, find the wiring diagram for your vehicle, look at the pinout for the ignition coil, attach jumper wires accordingly, and then use a test light to trigger it. That's all I can suggest. Do at your own risk. I'm not responsible for you burning out an ignition coil. Having a good used coil on hand that you can quickly plug in, that may be the quickest, safest thing to do. You don't want to start playing around with the harness plug that goes on the coil and do some funky bridging there, because then you could burn out the engine computer, the ECM, the PCM, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, the following video is just of me using jumper wires, attaching them according to the wiring diagram. Feel free to verify that what I did is correct. Let me know if I didn't do it correctly. To me, things looked okay, and the fact that I was developing spark makes me think that I did it correctly. So anyways, use this video at your own discretion, at your own risk. It's just for information purposes only, for people who are in a jam, who want to quickly know whether or not their ignition coil is okay or not. Okay, here's a setup for testing an ignition coil. Do this at your own risk. I'm not endorsing this method, but it can be used to determine if a coil produces spark or not. Use a wiring diagram to determine which wires go where. This is a 4-wire coil. The number 1 pin is on this side, and it counts 1, 2, 3, 4. So the number 1 pin is battery positive, again according to wiring diagram. Pin number, where is it here? Number 1, it's a common to all coils, and it goes up to a fuse. So ignition key on, or ignition on, is pin 1. Pin 2 is a ground. Pin 4 is also a shared ground. So what I did was I took pin 2 and I took pin 4, and you can see they're bridged together. So you've got your power and you've got your ground. That's 3 wires, 3 pins, which only leaves 1 more pin, which is your trigger. In order to check for spark, you have to have a spark plug in here, and the electrode needs to be grounded. So I've got 2 grounds here, one for the spark plug itself, and then the other ground for these 2 ground wires / pins. The trigger is a positive from battery positive, and I'm using a test light, and I'm just touching it to the pin, or to the wire, sorry, and it's just rapid testing, or rapid touching. You can see spark. If I disconnect the test light and go to negative and try the same thing, nothing happens. So the transistor that's in the board is a positive side switched. So it takes positive voltage to trigger the transistor in here. So again, test light right now is connected to positive, briefly touching, and you can see spark. You can rub it and you can see spark happening. Okay, so that's the way I have checked coils in the past, and I leave that up to you whether or not this is a method that you want to do. There is a possibility of burning out the coil or the logic board, if you want to call it that, if you do not do it correctly. In a prior video, I used just a jumper wire, not a test light. The test light will help absorb some of the current rushing into the circuit, and I think that may or might be responsible for causing transistor burnout or whatnot. I'm no electrician. I don't advertise that I am, and I don't want to be. Well, I need to know enough to determine what's going on, but this is what makes sense to me. If I get a questionable coil, this is what I do sometimes to make sure that the coil can at least produce a spark. So again, I leave that up to you whether or not you want to do that or not. Other coils will require different setups. There are five wire coils or 3-wire coils. Looking at a wiring diagram should tell you what pin does what. So again, you have to do your own research. This will not work on all coils because, like I said, coils fire differently sometimes, or the pin configuration is different.
Sorted.